Hello, welcome to Jewish Museum Milwaukee Museum Moments. My name is Ellie Gettinger. I'm the Education Director at Jewish Museum Milwaukee. And each week we take on some sort of theme, some sort of idea, some sort of story of local life. And this week, nationally, for the first time in 2 years, it's the Oscars. And it's been a long time since we were celebrating the movies, although they've had this whole cycle of everything from the BAFTAs to the DGAs to the Screen Actors Guild. Every celebration is happening this year, just a little bit off. And so as a celebration, as an exploration of movies, who better than to bring in the archivist from the Marcus Corporation to talk about the evolution of Wisconsin's own Marcus movie theaters and how they started and to tell that story. So I'm delighted to be joined today by Leslie Heinrichs from Marcus Corp. And
hi, everybody.
We're going to talk some Milwaukee history through the Marcus movie mayhem, I would say.
Mayhem is right.
So in starting, I'm going to jump over to the presentation that you so beautifully put together. And I'm going to put that up here first. So it's for everybody to see, not just me. And let's start by chatting about this gentleman in front of us right here. This
young man, this handsome young man. This is Ben Marcus. And he was born in 1911 in Poland, right outside of Russia.
And so this is his bigger family.
Yes, this is his family. He has 4 sisters, or had 4 sisters, I should say. And their story starts, their dad, after he was, Ben was just a couple years old, their dad moved to the United States to Minnesota. And they didn't have, I don't know, for whatever reason, the family stayed back. And it took them until Ben was 14 to come to the United States. So, this is a picture around the time that Ben came to the United States. And what happened is they took, the ship over. And on the way, Ben showed his first remarkable, way of being. He started to work in service, and he would deliver oranges and water and things to people on the ship who were sick and didn't want to leave their cabins. And so he ended up making a ton of money on the trip, this little 14-year-old boy who does not speak English. And, he learned that service is really important.
So that customer service piece was immediately built into who he was as an entrepreneur. It wasn't just about finding a product. It was about finding a product and engaging with people.
Exactly. We don't even know. He may have been doing something, in Poland, but I don't know that part of the story. I just know this is the beginning of it. So here's Ben. Now, when he got here, he's also amazing. He learns English very quickly. And in a year and a half, so he's 15 and a half, he graduates from high school. And so, that's what this picture is. You can see Ben there. And okay, so here he becomes amazing again. He becomes a newspaper boy. And he's not satisfied to be a newspaper boy in the traditional sense we'd think about it. He ends up hiring 3 boys to work for him and makes more money than his manager at the time.
So again, it's a systems question. He knows that there's a product, he knows how to get it to market, but he just needs the task force. He's gonna implement that bigger group. So he's already showing kind of broader logistical prowess and the kind of question of engaging with people all before he can drive.
Exactly. Well, and then, so they end up hiring him to write copy for ads, and he becomes their theater copy guy. And he goes out to all these different theaters. So he must have been driving by that point, and he's really curious. And so he starts to learn about, the production of movies and all the different parts. How do you pop popcorn? What do you do here? He's real nosy and curious. And so he starts to develop a real strong love for theater, even as he's advancing in his job. So we can flip. Okay, so this is around 1934, Ben and Seal, his wife, and they had a beautiful partnership. And, I can't express to you how cool it is. I found this letter that he wrote her in the 1960s, and it was still like this beautiful, loving relationship that they had. It was so sweet and romantic.
It's such a great picture. I mean, it's the type of picture you don't always see of couples from that time period, because you often see them kind of in these more, I would say, kind of friendly embraces, as opposed to like this romantic embrace.
I know, and they always had that. And so he sort of decides around this time that he wants to buy a theater, and she's okay with it. And even though she's pregnant with Steve, so in 1935 she has Steve, but she's still okay with it. She's his partner in everything. And, so that's why I really love this picture too.
So it's also this moment of saying, we have some stability. He has a good job at this point, but I want to, kind of bet it all and find some and go in on this idea of a movie theater.
Exactly.
And so this next slide really speaks to that question of where they go. And I look at this and I'm like, this isn't a movie theater, Leslie. What am I looking at here?
Okay, so this is in Ripon, Wisconsin. And he ends up here because he's traveling around looking for a theater. And one of his friends says, oh, Ripon has a nice college. We should go check out the college town. And they weren't even looking for a theater there. But he sees a fire sale at a department store. And Ben looks at it and he thinks, I think I can, make this work financially. I think I'm going to buy a department store and turn it into a movie theater. I mean, Ripon looks like a good location. They had some sort of theater, but it was in a military installation. So I think it was folding chairs or something. It wasn't really very nice. And he knew
you were getting the movies theater, and he already, the service experience that he was going to bring to this after all of his research.
Exactly. And, he ends up getting some investors to help him out because he doesn't have enough money to buy it and fix it up, because he wants to use the absolute best technology that's available. Because he decides, what I'm going to do is get the best technology, have the cleanest theater, which I think came from his mom, about everything should be very clean, and do great service. And I think I can make a few dollars. That's what he said about it. I can make a few dollars.
But this was, so as this becomes successful, at what point is his next move, hey, maybe we need more movie theaters? Well,
it comes pretty fast. I'll get to it in the next slide for you. Okay, so
let's do this slide first. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, because it is exciting. His story is so amazing. I mean, everything the man touched turns to gold. So this is the very first movie, November 1st, 1935, that they had in the theater, which you and I were discussing. We haven't seen yet. But
we have not seen it. If anybody who's watching has seen It's in the Air with Jack Benny and Una Merkel and Ted Healy, please let us know about what sort of madcap adventures go on in this, because we have not seen this one.
Exactly. We have not seen this. Well, so in the theater, Ben and Seal do everything themselves at first. She's the bookkeeper and she has a brand new baby and she's still, keeping their books, and he's ushering and he's making popcorn and he's taking money and tickets and everything. And he's training people too. Well, within a really short time of this opening, he ends up making enough money to pay back his investors. And so then he says to his wife, and you just think about this conversation. He says, I'm getting bored. I think I'd like to maybe open another theater.
She's like, we just did this one theater.
Come on, we have a baby here. What are we going to do? But I think she understood him so well, because he was a man who just was on a mission. He needed to do more. So we can flip.
So
yeah.
The next theater is in Neenah. Is that the second one?
No, this is actually, I think, the sixth.
Oh, so by the time he's getting to Neenah, he's like a known commodity in the kind of Fox Valley area.
Exactly. He finds locations when he's out traveling, and he finds old theaters and he fixes them up using his same formula of great technology, great service. But the Neenah Theater is special because this is the first, really big movie theater that's opening, a brand new theater. And this theater is special because it's air conditioned.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know, right? And it has love seats for couples to sit on. I mean, I wonder what that was like. It just sounds lovely.
It does.
The big exciting part, he has a milk bar there where people can drink milk and belly up to the bar.
Both of us, Leslie and I, wanted to get more information about what a milk bar entailed. Is it frozen? Is it like milkshakes? Is it just, different types of milk? Is it your 2%? what that looks like. So if any of you who are watching ever were at, say, the Nina Theater where the Milk Bar was, or any other movie theater where there was a Milk Bar, please let us know, because you would be offering us such important insight into this story.
Exactly. And this theater was so beautiful that people would come from miles around just to see it. It just sounds lovely. You know? Okay, so Ben, again, not satisfied just having those theaters. He starts to get into the drive-in business during the late 40s, early 50s. And he ends up having 14 in Wisconsin, eventually. And this is really going to help him when we get to the next slide, because the drive-in business, makes a difference. This is the drive-in in Menominee Falls.
So this is the next slide. I love this slogan, get more out of life, go out to a movie. But I think in this moment in which we've seen this kind of year where people are talking about, will the movies be able to survive? This fact that I think you and I talked about, that there's this constant existential threat. The existential threat to the movies is always changing. So in this case, it's television, right? Is that the...
Exactly. That's right. So Ben keeps buying theaters, and everyone thinks he's nuts because, why are you buying theaters? Television is coming in. People will no longer go to movies. And he gets them for a good price. And at first, people aren't going to movies as much. However, the drive-ins are sustaining the business because people are going to drive-in movies. Maybe dates, I don't know. They had a lot of cool carload specials and stuff. But Ben reasons this out. And he says, every home has a kitchen, and people still go out to restaurants. Why wouldn't they want to go out to movies? And this is going to be his theme forever. And, I know if he was around today, he'd say that, people are dying to get out to the movies again. And the business is going to be coming back, in a way that it was.
I think so. I think that's fair. So here we have Ben and Steve. And this
1980, yeah.
As Steve is taking over.
Exactly. And so, it becomes, it's the family business. And today it's still run, in the family in that sense, because Greg Marcus, Steve's son, is in charge. And these are going to be great boots to fill, I guess you'd say.
So we wanted to talk, since it's Oscar week, and one of the things that kind of drives traffic is the idea of controversy and movies. And so here's a picture of Ben later on. But what was his feeling? What was his stomach for controversy in movies?
Ben loves controversy because he just says the right thing at the right time. And so one of the controversies was cable TV. Oh, wait, before we get to that.
Cable TV.
The other good, cable TV. And again, he looks at it in the same way as he looks at television. And he even buys a cable station up in the Upper Peninsula for a short time in the late 60s, just to see what that's like. But he ends up using cable TV to advertise. So everybody's saying cable's going to kill the movie theater business. And he uses it to advertise movies and is extremely successful because it's cheaper to advertise on cable. So that was something that was interesting. He also was involved in with the movie theater business. So the studios were kind of treating people unfairly. They were saying, let's take the movies and go right to television. And so he writes up like a treatise for this, because he's very involved in the movie organizations, and it ends up being used by everybody in the industry. He's that good, his ideas and the way he looks at things.
To say, this is how television and movies and video and all that stuff are going to pair together.
Exactly. He's always ahead. Ooh. Okay.
So the next two slides are about movies that caused controversy. And is this one that was shown at Marcus Theaters?
It was at the Esquire Theater in Madison, which was an artsy theater. And yes, 1980. So
this one has I don't know if you guys know about Caligula. You can see lots of Academy Award winners or nominees in this movie. Helen Mirren, Peter O'Toole, John Gielgud. But it was produced by Penthouse. So what was the fallout from Caligula at the Empire in Madison?
Sure. So it was considered obscene. And at that time, there was a law in the Wisconsin Supreme Court about obscenity in movies. And for the first time, It's thrown out. And so this is sort of trying to figure out, how are we going to show these kinds of films? How is this going to work? But the thing about this is that there's all these protesters in Madison against this movie, which drives the business. So instead of playing a week, which is what they expected, it went on for 4 weeks, and they made a ton of money off of this movie.
In this case, the controversy really did help sell. On the flip side, this is a movie I've never heard of, but sounds horrible. Silent Night, Deadly Night. You can see there's a political cartoon about it as well, with the killer Easter bunny as well.
That's right. So this was generally thought of as a really bad movie. It didn't have any redeeming value to it. And the controversy here is that Santa is a serial killer, and Santa also brutally rapes women and does other horrible things in it. I mean, it sounds really awful.
It sounds like a horrible movie.
It pretty much does. And so you can kind of see the protesters with the "We Love Santa" sign and stuff like that. Well, Marcus Theaters handles this in a different way. They decide to listen to their people, and they take it out of their theaters. And so it only played for 3 days in Marcus Theaters. And they said there's no real redeeming value in this movie. And other theaters pick it up. So it still lasts a lot longer than it should have, just because of the controversy around it.
But we don't know about it today, so it clearly didn't really stand the test of time.
No, I don't think it was much of a movie.
As we're wrapping up today, I kind of want to talk about movies have been hit really hard, especially movie theaters. And this is Greg Marcus, who is the third generation of Marcus CEOs of the Marcus Corporation. What do you kind of feel in this kind of moment? What do you feel like the big COVID takeaways are, and what's going to happen going forward?
Yeah, well, Greg, like I said, he had big shoes to fill. His dad is an amazing man, did all these amazing things. His grandpa, as we know, did amazing things. Greg's done some amazing things, but I really believe when down the road, when you start looking back on the history, 50 years from now, this has been a real shining moment for Greg. He has been so honest and transparent about things with all of his people we're all scared. Many of us were put on furlough and, didn't know if anything would happen. And I feel like Greg has made us feel like a family, so he really cares about what happens to his people. He wants to see us all back here, and he's done a lot of smart things to try to save money to keep as many people on as possible until business picked up.
And from that kind of family side of things, this is something that employees have kind of banded together within Marcus to do in this kind of tough time, this Marcus Cares group, this Facebook page.
Exactly. It started out as maybe a way to disseminate information, just kind of boring, but it's turned out to be different theaters, different hotels, different parts of our business will send messages of hope to each other. There's birthday messages, there's anniversary things, there's service activities that people have done. I put out history, articles every week, at least, if not more. It just has been a really cool place where you do feel like family, and you start to know people who are in, other states and other places that we had never met before. So we're getting to know them through this.
So lovely. And finally, to wrap up, this is one of your initiatives of this year. You every year do a video. It makes sense that there's a video that comes out of Marcus for the holiday party. This year is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, this was a lot different because, normally we have this beautiful party with lots of great food and camaraderie and stuff. And this year we didn't get to do that. And so I was told we were going to do a small video, so I had to really cut back, which was very hard for me. How do I pick? But that day, every year I take pictures of people around, doing Christmas things. And that day that I came in, this was pretty much who was there. And I went around and talked to each person and made them find something holiday so I could take their picture. And they were so wonderful because they knew it would be seen by other Marcus employees, and they wanted them to know how much we wanted them back. And, I was just so moved when I was putting this together. And so I decided to do it like a Zoom page because I thought in the future when they do the holiday,
from an archival standpoint, this is what we're going to think of for 2020 for sure.
Exactly. We will all remember the Zoom calls. So
all of our 20 boxes.
It just shows how many people care, and that's what I loved about it.
I want to thank Leslie for being my guest today. She was amazing. Thank you for sharing all of this fascinating history with us. I think everyone who's watching can say, we can't wait to be back in a movie theater again.
Yes, yes.
So hopefully soon that's coming. And the Oscars are on this Sunday. We're not making any predictions, but I'm pretty sure Nomadland is going to win it all. And you guys can take that to the bank. And I also want to thank our supporter, Robin Cohen, for making sure that these can continue to happen. Join us next week for our exploration of manpower. And thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks again, Leslie.
Thank you, Ellie.